All right, folks, we've been covering voter suppression on this show for the last several years, and we now see more of this by the Trump Department of Justice. The department filed a brief in an Ohio case headed to the Supreme Court, which reversed the Obama administration's position in favor of voting rights. Under current Ohio law, if a voter has not cast a vote in 2 years, the state will send them a notice by mail. If the voter does not respond to that notice and cast no ballot for the next 4 years, he or she will be purged from voter rolls. Well, that's a problem because, again, it impacts voters. The Ohio voting, so first of all, again, that's what happens in Ohio. It goes to Supreme Court. Joining us right now is Kristen Clark, Executive Director for the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under Law. Of course, we have our panel there as well, Dr. Greg Carr. We have Liz Copeland and Spencer Overton as well. Kristen, go to you. Again, another example of this Trump administration and Republicans desiring to suppress the vote.
You know, vote purges are a really dangerous voter suppression tactic. And what we've seen in Ohio is an unprecedented attempt to remove people from the registration rolls merely because they may have been inactive and not turned out to vote in the last several years.
And what was crazy about this is if you choose not to vote, first of all, I wish folks do vote. If you choose not to vote, fine. But what's the logic in removing people just because they didn't vote?
That's right. There is no logic to what the state of Ohio is doing. And what Ohio is doing is violating a federal voting rights law called the National Voter Registration Act. This is perhaps our second most important federal voting rights law, passed in the early 90s. And since that time, the Justice Department has taken the position that the NVRA prohibits what Ohio is doing. It prohibits states from removing people from the rolls unless somebody has affirmatively said, you know, I've moved, or an election official has gotten a death notice, or you know, if an election official gets a piece of mail returned to them, they can put that person on an inactive list, but they must wait 2 federal election cycles before they can take any steps to remove that person. Here, the Justice Department is ignoring those fail-safes and restrictions that are built into the NVRA, and they're defending Ohio's crude and unusual practice of taking people off the registration rolls merely for not voting. Unprecedented, dangerous, and again, evidence of this Justice Department taking action to turn the clock back when it comes to protecting the sacred right to vote.
Liz, according to an analysis by Reuters, neighborhoods that have a high proportion of poor African-American residents will be hit hardest by this purging effort. We keep saying it, Republicans, look, if you want black votes, Donald Trump said, what the hell do you have to lose? We see a lot. This is consistent Republican efforts to purge voters.
I can surely understand the perspective that this is a voter suppression act, but there are many people in the conservative movement or in the Republican Party, specifically in Ohio, would say this is a purely administrative process, that there's a fiscal note attached to maintaining voter records that has inactive voters, and after 6 years, if an individual doesn't come out and participate, that's the cost that they have to pay. Although there are other people also within the Republican Party that look more like me, who say that this really does impact African Americans, and we shouldn't do anything to prevent more African Americans from participating in our process.
Now, but let's
Spencer Overton, you're the author of the book "Stealing Democracy: The New Politics of Voter Suppression." This is clearly policy of the GOP.
Yeah, it absolutely is, Roland. And the reason we have this federal law is because sometimes local politicians use purges to remove people, and they do that so that they can win elections. They want to get rid of the people who are likely to vote against them. We've got a scenario where the politicians are selecting the voters rather than the voters selecting the politicians. The Obama administration had one position, and career attorneys were with them in that position, with this new position of the Justice Department, there are no career lawyers on it with the political lawyers. Basically, this is a political act by the front office in terms of the Civil Rights Division.
You offer the appointment of the lawyers as to speak to the interpretation.
Greg Carr, 1 second, Greg Carr, and that's the fundamental issue right there. The political folks are the ones driving this in DOJ.
Absolutely. GOP, message to you. Come get your racist cousins. This is racism, white nationalism, and in part of Jeff Sessions' strategy to roll back the 20th century. The parallel is in the period after Reconstruction, when the states began in their state constitutions to roll this back. That's why you have to have a federal government. There's a reason why no career lawyers signed on to this brief. They have moved this to the political apparatus. And you got an the Secretary of State in Ohio who's running for governor, and all these cats are trying to get it close enough to steal. If they can get it close enough to steal, they will steal it. They will steal it.
There's no stealing in Ohio. It's a red state.
One second. I got to go to a break because we have to go to our Tom Joyner simulcast. Kristen Clark, keep giving them hell. Keep fighting Republicans on voter suppression. We need folks like you battling them in the courts. Thanks a lot.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no.
That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.